If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games.
We're all locked in now.
Your home for the best sports radio in Utah is right here on the KSL Sports Zone. It's time to kick off your afternoon drive with Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Allow me to introduce the best of the best.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Man, Ben, I didn't, based on yesterday's show, we talked a lot of draft and what the Jazz should do. I had no idea I was going to be doing a full reversal on a take yesterday in such short order.
A lot changed.
Breaking news about an hour ago, Ben. Ace Bailey has signed with Klutch Sports, the agency announced.
And your take yesterday was?
Well, my take yesterday was stay away from... Caleb Wilson, because he's a Klutch guy, so eliminate him immediately. And then I said the Jazz we were talking about trading or trading up or something like that, and we were talking about, if you need to get a star, the number 2 pick, or, would that pick even turn out to be better than Ace Bailey? They should keep Ace Bailey. Certainly don't consider trading that guy. Trade that guy.
You're saying trade Ace Bailey?
Trade Ace Bailey. I don't care if it's trading up. I don't care if it's trading out.
Pennies on the dollar.
Trade.
Because you're out on Klutch.
I'm out on Klutch.
Yeah.
All they do is twist arms.
Sure.
For example, Ben, do you remember who the Lakers picked over the guy that looks like a professional bowler?
Who's that?
Really? You don't remember? God, why am I losing his name? Played last night on the Thunder. Traded from the Bulls. He looks like a professional bowler with a headband. Caruso.
Yes.
Sorry. Thank you. God. Sorry. Apologies to everybody. Do you remember who the Lakers signed instead of Alex Caruso?
Was it Rusty Westbrook?
Nope. Christian, get the drop ready.
Oh, I do remember.
Get the drop ready.
Mr. Talen Horton-Tucker.
Hot dog!
Hot dog!
You're right.
Why did the Lakers do that, Ben?
Klutch.
Because of Adele.
Yeah.
Because Adele called on the phone and said, Rob, you got to sign Hot Dog, bro.
We'll tell you who the right guy is.
You got to do it. And Rob said, I don't know. This Caruso guy can kind of guard. He played his way onto the roster, kind of playing a critical role.
Hello.
You're signing Talen Horton-Tucker. Congratulations. Yeah, I think, the Ace should go back to what's his name's dad?
Go back to, now I've got names all over.
Omar Cooper.
Yeah.
Get Omar on the horn.
Yeah.
He would be an upgrade.
Sure. Over Klutch. Again, Omar Cooper was not a true agent. He was a manager, so he's not negotiating contracts and can't do that. Yes, Klutch has the ability to do that. This was really, really kind of the overwhelming favorite a year ago, maybe not quite, 10 months ago, after the draft where Ace had fired his representation and didn't really have an agent. Everyone assumed it was going to be Klutch, and then they just didn't sign. He wasn't with anybody all year, and so people just thought, oh, who knows? But yeah, ends up being Klutch anyways. And yes, you've been out on Klutch.
I'm out on Klutch. They don't... I don't like the way they represent their clients. And they certainly... I think the best agents, Ben, And we'll dive into the draft, of course. We've got a lot coming on. But I truly think the best agents are the ones that work with teams for mutual benefit, and that's not Klutch's style.
No, they're all player.
They're all player.
Yeah.
What's his name? Bartlestein could represent Joe Ingles and Gordon Hayward at the same time and do right by both of them and the team. And I know Bartlestein's kind of a dirty word because how that played out, but from an agent standpoint, he did his job in a very touchy situation. He's a good agent. Mm-hmm. He was Britton Johnson's agent. Talk to Britton about how good Bartlestein is. I think, who was Stockton's agent, the super agent that had Jordan to the Scott Boras of the NBA, Falk. He was very player, but he was also very much in the mutually beneficial game.
Sure.
And I don't know if Klutch does that. And honestly, the Jazz are going to have to make a critical decision on Ace Bailey, and in the next couple of years, and they're going to have to spend their cap room very wisely, mm-hmm. and agents are really going to matter. Now, Klutch is also not very good for their players that they don't think are very good.
Right. They don't seem to care about them nearly as much.
And they sign bad deals.
Yeah.
Colin Sexton signed a bad deal with the Jazz.
Yeah.
It turned out to be a good deal for the Jazz.
Yeah, it's fine.
But it was not a good deal for Colin Sexton at the time. Anyway, so after yesterday's fiery discussion about Klutch Sports, Ace Bailey signs the very next day. Man.
Well, we'll see what type of a priority he becomes for them. But you're not wrong that it does become interesting of, fit, representation, what they want for their player, who's going to bat for their player, and all this stuff does matter. The agents will call and say, hey, you're going to draft a guy at the same position as my guy? Mm-hmm. I thought he was your guy. I thought you really liked Ace. And now you're going to draft this player? How's he going to start? Ace wants to start. We think Ace should start. He's the number 5 overall pick. If you don't want him, if you don't want to value him, we can probably find another place for him. Mm-hmm. And those types of conversations certainly do happen.
Ben, tell me who was the architect of James Harden fatting himself out of Houston?
Was it Klutch? There you go.
And then when he had to fat himself out of Brooklyn?
Did the same thing.
I don't know if he technically fatted himself out of the Clippers.
No.
There was something nefarious going on, though.
Yeah, it was not ideal.
That is still one of the wildest things, the Clippers truly pulling the plug on the season mid-season when they were going to make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And trading Zubats, which, of course, is controversial because the Clippers picked up the 5th pick in that trade. But that was still one of the more bizarre things ever. If it weren't for Klutch, I don't think the Clippers do that.
I don't know. I don't know if they were waiting for the aspiration stuff to come down. I don't know if they thought there was a bigger issue there. I really don't know what that thought process was, though it did work, and they ended up adding another number 5 overall pick as a chance to restart the roster, obviously.
Because of the Zubats trade, but that came after. Mm-hmm. They thought that they were done for.
And it was weird that they owed their pick to the Thunder and decided to tank anyways. Yeah, that's a real gamble.
So there's a reason they did that.
Not tank, but not go all in. They traded Zubats.
There's
a reason. Harden.
Yeah, they just got lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, much like with Dallas, it covers up a lot of stuff when you just get lucky. They just got lucky. But them pulling the plug on the season was truly one of the more bizarre decisions. And maybe it was because of an extension, except for James Harden didn't sign an extension in Cleveland.
Right.
So I just think, it matters. It matters who represents these players, and so we'll see. I mean, the Jazz have had multiple Klutch players on their roster pretty much the whole time the Angels have been there. So
Jazz won't be scared of it.
No.
I don't think, Jazz will do their due diligence.
But nobody with the ceiling of Ace Bailey is the problem.
Right.
If he becomes a multi-time All-Star, are they going to want him to stay in Salt Lake?
Ben, you had behind-the-scenes sources on this one. Adele had De'Aaron Fox out of Sacramento.
Like a year and a half before it happened. Yeah, no,
that's
what
real. They do.
Absolutely, it's real. Yeah, that's something you've got to pay attention to. You've got to make sure that these guys are happy. Now, you also, along those same lines, have to believe that you're not the Sacramento Kings. And I do think when we've looked at Ryan Smith's ownership so far, a big thing that he's tried to lay out is that the players are welcome in Salt Lake and happy to, or can be happy in Salt Lake, and that they're not going to be a poorly run organization like the Sacramento Kings, so you aren't afraid to have your players there and don't feel like your players can succeed there. And so far, I think he's done a very good job. And, look, you're going to hear conversations about, do you think Darryn Peterson wants to go to the Jazz if he ends up being the pick at number 2? And, the Jazz got to get up to number 1 to get A.J. Dybantsa because he's already shown a willingness to live in Utah, and he'll sign a third contract there. He's going to sign a second contract. Going to sign a third contract there. It's like, that's so far down the road, it doesn't really matter. But that's going to be some conversation people have about Boozer or AJ over a Darryn Peterson and how he fits. Now, Darryn Peterson's not a Klutch guy, so don't worry about that necessarily. But those are conversations that are going to be had, and I think it's one of the battles that Ryan Smith has willingly forged to change that narrative, and I think that's probably a smart move.
Yeah, they've done a good job treating their players well and working with it. I'm trying to remember, and then we can move on and talk about the draft. But I'm trying to remember who Jamie Watson's agent was, because Larry Miller vowed never to work with that agent again, and it wasn't Manley because that ended up being Carl's agent. I'm trying to remember who the agent was, but they had a chance to flip AK for Sean Marion down the line, and Larry Miller said no, because Marion had that same guy was his agent. So it's funny how those behind-the-scenes things totally work.
Yep.
People talking about the Jazz, it seems like there's a little more, I don't know, Ben, where it's coming from, a little more, at least buzz out there about the Jazz possibly trading up because they love A.J. Dybantsa so much. Follow me here. This is my logic that I've come up with today. Absolutely do not do it. Okay. You know why? Because I think both players are going to be good. Mm-hmm. It's one of those win-win type scenarios. But if there is a wrong decision to be made, Washington's going to make it.
Sure.
Whoever falls to the Jazz is going to be the better of the two. I would almost bet on it.
This is exactly what I'm writing about today in the mailbag, and kind of the question of this. Should the Jazz trade up to number 1? And there's I just kind of think there's a logical fallacy involved with all of it. And it's a little bit different than the other times we've seen number 1 overall picks traded. It's extraordinarily rare. When it has happened, it was Maple Jordan, who we brought up, Andrew Wiggins yesterday we brought it up. Uh-huh. And that happened because the Cavaliers that same summer also added LeBron James and then wanted to win a title and had another number 1 overall pick already.
And LeBron was jealous, yeah.
And needed a veteran. And they got a veteran, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And they won a title within 3 years and made, 4 finals with Kevin Love instead of Andrew Wiggins. It was clearly the right move. The other notable one I remember, and I wonder if it's happened since then, I honestly can't remember, is the Penny Hardaway-Chris Webber trade. Chris Webber was the number 1 overall pick. Penny Hardaway was 3. The year before, the Orlando Magic had won the number 1 overall pick and drafted Shaq.
Yep.
And then the next year didn't feel like they needed another front court player. They wanted a backcourt player, so they felt like they should have moved back to get Penny and traded Chris Webber to Golden State and with a bunch of draft picks. So that's the other one I really remember.
You're missing a big one.
Okay, which was that?
Maybe the second worst trade of all time.
Which one was that? Oh, yes, Markelle Fultz for Jason Tatum. Yes, of course.
Fultz, who currently plays for?
Nobody. The Clippers?
Nobody.
He signed a 10-day with Toronto. I think he signed a 10-day with Toronto. But yes, nobody. And Jason Tatum's won a title.
And Danny Ainge got other assets for the pleasure.
Correct. So, yes, that is another big one. I thank you for bringing that up. The difference there being Philly also felt like that's a little similar to the Shaq trade. They already had Joel Embiid. They felt like they needed a true point guard. Did they already have Ben Simmons also?
No, not yet.
They didn't have Simmons yet?
I don't think so.
I can't remember the order of all of that. But regardless, they felt like they needed a backcourt player. Specifically, they started drafting for fit, and the Celtics just decided they needed the best player available, even though at times people thought they needed a point guard, which is also very revealing that you should never draft for fit. You should always just draft the best player available. I'm not sure that what the Wizards and the Jazz are dealing with right here.
Fultz was 2017, by the way.
So Simmons must come after that? No, yeah. Simmons, I can't remember, and honestly, the order. You'll have to bring it up. But
2016, so it was the year after.
The year after.
That's
and
hilarious.
Everyone kind of knew he wasn't a point guard, so they wanted a guy who would, bring the ball up and space the floor, and they could play in the backcourt together, and obviously it just flopped horrendously. And you think of just how good of a fit Jason Tatum would have been on that roster.
Fultz started getting coached by his cousin, right? And then forgot how to play basketball.
Yeah. It's like
his cousin's like, hey, guess what? You should try this.
Yeah. No. So, anyways, when we're talking about moving from 1 to 2, I think a lot of those teams have done it for fit in the past, which A, is just a huge mistake. You shouldn't do that. Neither the Jazz or Wizards should be considering fit at all with this first or second pick, especially the Wizards, who just need everything. The Wizards are a disaster. They need everything, and they've got some okay young players, but they're not particularly close to competing for anything, so they just need to take the number one guy. Here's the thing. If they're willing to trade back, the question is, why are they willing to trade back? If they don't think there's a huge gap between the number one guy and the number two guy, why should anybody else? To be honest with you, these are good front offices. Everyone has a good front office. They're not perfect by any means. The Wizards haven't done a terrible job drafting. I think they did a good job getting Alex Sarr with the number 2 overall pick. He's clearly better than Zachary Rieseshay, so they made the right choice there. They drafted Keyshawn George late in the first round. He's been very good. They drafted Will Riley late in the first round. He's been very good. They have some competence drafting players. So if they see a guy at number 1 and they think, he's really good, and number 2, he's also really good, I don't think there's a lot of value in the Jazz feeling like they should go nuts to get up to that number 1 overall pick. If the picks are that close, why are you giving up a ton to get there? And then if they're not close, and it's so obvious there's a great number 1 pick, and there's a major drop-off from number 1 to number 2, why would Washington trade it? Washington needs that guy. What is Washington going to get that gets them closer other than a superstar? Well, if they think there's a superstar at 1 and only an okay player at 2, and the Jazz are trying to get out of that spot, why would the Wizards do that? I don't think the logic actually adds up. I
don't necessarily disagree. I think you're overcomplicating it slightly.
Okay.
Why would Washington move back?
If they felt like the player they liked was going to be available at 2 and they could pick up extra assets. That's the logic.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Why would the Jazz move up to 1?
To get A.J. Dybantsa.
I don't know about A.J. Dybantsa.
But whoever, a local guy who they think is the best player on the board.
To get their guy, period.
Yeah.
I don't know if why would you rule out Peterson being their guy?
No, I might not.
But it would be to leave no doubt
that they get their player.
Now, why would news... So Washington, let me put it this way. Let's say Washington's on Peterson. Mm-hmm. That's their guy.
Yeah.
They're buying into the narrative that, Ainge wants to keep Dybantsa in his backyard. Why would I just take Peterson? I'll take Peterson number 2, and I'll take a future first-round pick or whatever from the Utah Jazz so they can guarantee themselves that player.
Yes.
So the Jazz are either going to fight against that narrative or feed into that narrative depending on who their guy is. I actually don't think either team cares about need. They shouldn't.
No, they absolutely should not.
I don't think either team cares about need whatsoever. I think both teams will identify which player they want and then figure out what they can do or if it's worth moving around. Danny Ainge figured out that he wanted Jason Tatum.
Mm-hmm.
He said to Philadelphia, and you can look at there's some stuff written about the behind the scenes of this, but they basically told Philadelphia they're going to take Fultz because Philly had a leaky front office and it came out that they really wanted Fultz.
Right.
So Danny played him like a fiddle.
And everyone knew the Lakers were going to take Lonzo Ball too.
Because Magic Johnson is a moron.
Got tricked.
Got duped by LeVar Ball.
Yes.
I mean, it is one of the most savvy moves out there. They said, okay, well, we're just going to take your guy. And Philly said, panic, Ben, panic. And they made a horrible trade, and they traded up, and they got a non-player. Danny Ainge still got his guy, and he picked up assets. You do no, whatever happens, Ben, you don't want to be Philadelphia.
Correct.
Whatever, trade it, keep it, whatever. You don't want to be Philadelphia. You don't want to be the team that gets played. I would guess the Jazz are floating it out there that they want A.J. Dybantsa because of all the stuff we're talking about, and then they're going to see how it plays out. Maybe Washington gets buffaloed into something because they're convinced they know what the Jazz are going to do.
Yeah.
But I think it all hinges on, like Gavoni. Did you hear Gavoni? We can play this clip a little bit later on, but your guy Jabroni jumped on with Zach Lowe, and he was talking about how Peterson's the guy. Peterson's been the guy since they've been like 15, and he's still the guy now. Well, if Washington knows that, they're going to threaten to take Dybantsa and try to bilk something out of the Jazz. Don't be the sucker. Let Washington pick the guy that they want to pick. And honestly, if Jazz get stuck, quote unquote, with Darryn Peterson, who cares? He's a great player. Yeah, I wouldn't move at all. I'd just be blowing smoke if I were the Jazz.
And that's where I totally am. Yeah, you know what? The best thing to do is if you're the Jazz and you want A.J. Dybantsa, make everyone think you want Darryn Peterson. That would be my whole thing, is make everyone feel like, why do the Jazz want him so bad? Why do the Jazz want this guy so bad? I think we have to take him, and then your guy falls to you. I'm not going nuts, though, to get up to number 1. I'm certainly not giving up Ace Bailey. I'm certainly not giving up a lot of future draft picks. If it was one pick, if you're giving up maybe one pick or a protected future pick, and we know these picks are getting so wonky and probably losing value in future years, I would certainly consider it. The problem is if that's the only price you're paying, then I don't think Washington says yes. I think Washington wants what Boston got to move up, or to move back, I should say.
Why are you're, I guess, not exactly assuming, but I would never assume that A.J. Dybantsa is the Jazz guy.
No, I wouldn't guarantee that either. I don't know any of these 3 guys as the Jazz's guy. I'm not saying, hey, these guys, this
just
could
because
be,
he went to BYU, that they should not make that pick.
No,
I
this
mean,
could
I know
be
they're
Mad
familiar
Libs.
with him.
Honestly, this could be Mad Libs. You could put in any noun here, and it could be the number 1 pick. I mean, the Jazz are trying to trade up for.
Mm-hmm.
I do think everyone thinks the Jazz want to trade up to to get AJ. I know that's kind of the talk because it's very easy. It's very convenient. Similarly, AJ had a very good day today at the Combine. He had a 42-inch vertical, and we can talk about that more. So just along those lines, I think that's why people think the Jazz would want to trade up. Simple. But yeah, maybe it is Darryn Peterson, or maybe it's Boozer. We don't really know which direction that's going to head. But yes, should the Jazz trade up to number 1 to make sure they get their guy, period? I think if that's the case, I don't think they're going to be able to offer enough if there's like an obvious number 1 pick for Washington to move off of it. And if it's not obvious that you have to get one specific guy, then why are you trading a whole lot to move? That's just kind of where I think the cost is not going to be worth it.
Yeah. The only reason Washington would move down is if Peterson was their guy.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. Well, at least move down with the Jazz.
Yeah, and then you have to wonder, why wouldn't Peterson be your guy? That's a very legitimate question.
So, if I'm the Jazz, I stay put, and I just let Washington make a bad decision, and
I take whoever's next.
Yeah,
I just trust the process, and I keep my players I already have, and I keep my assets I already have, because I don't want to be at an asset deficit once I'm trying to compete for a championship. It's the teams that are trying to compete for a championship that maintain some level of malleability through trade, through the draft, that are able to actually get over the finish line. It's when you trade all your assets for Mike Conley and you realize, oh, we're not quite in the right spot. How do we get to the next place? And you don't have any wiggle room. But when you are the Oklahoma City Thunder, who get trounced, or not trounced, but lose in 6 games to the Dallas Mavericks and realize, ooh, we are one piece away. How do we get there? They still have the draft picks or the financial flexibility to go out and add an Isaiah Hartenstein to their roster. That's where you want to be. You don't want to be broke when it comes to your ability to make changes to your roster once you feel like you've gone mostly in on a championship window.
Yeah, you don't want to ever be capped out if you can help it.
Yeah. And capped out financially or out of assets when it comes to the draft. So I'm not giving up all my draft picks to move up to number 1 either. Unless I absolutely know AJ's a true can't-miss top 5 player in the league, and I don't think you get that in any draft, really. Certainly not this one.
No.
If it was Wemby, sure. But then again, no one's ever trading Wemby. I mean, that's just the logical fallacy of the whole problem.
It's the tough part about being in the draft.
Yeah.
Don't end up Philadelphia.
Correct.
What were the other 2 examples? I think the Penny Weber trade was a good one for both franchises.
Yeah, that worked out.
And what was the other one? Now the Wiggins Kevin Love thing.
Yeah, really worked out for the Cavaliers.
And Love didn't want to be in Minnesota, so it worked out for it because he had demanded a trade. No,
I believe he was ready to go. Certainly.
So, no, I don't see the Jazz moving or trading up. That doesn't make any sense. And certainly, if A.J. Dybantsa is their guy, they should be running away from A.J., but I don't think they can, which actually maybe puts them in a kind of an advantageous position.
Yeah.
Who knows? I do think, and we can talk about this later, that Peterson should want to come to Utah. We could talk about that.
Yeah, he had some interesting comments today.
We'll get into it coming up. We've got top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com coming up next. Bob Casper is going to join us at 2:50 to talk PGA Championship. Ricky O'Donnell, NBA writer for SB Nation, will be with us at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. Stay tuned. It's Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. This is the top 3 stories of the day on KSLSports.com. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake, Scott, Ben, Anderson. It's time for the top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com. Brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. Cherish your love With J. Brooks Jewelers, explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials. J. Brooks Jewelers. All right, Christian, where do you want to start today?
Number one, this just in, coming from the NBA Combine per Shams. Darryn Peterson's camp is telling teams he wants to be a point guard.
That's not surprising. He did a little bit of both on and off the ball at Kansas. He was just so, not rarely in the lineup, but would play 23 minutes a night and then would miss games and then would come back and play 35. They just never really figured out how to use him. And when he was on the court, he was really looking to score. He had a 1-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio. It's like he's not this crazy playmaker I think that some people expect him to be. At least he hasn't so far. So in that sense, I think a lot of people think, oh, well, that's an off-ball player who's going to be, a spot-up, not a spot-up shooter, but an off-ball shooter and score, and that's going to be his role. In high school, he had the ball in his hands, but he was the best athlete on the floor, and that's what happens in high school. It's like in baseball, your best player is your best hitter and your best pitcher. He's a tier above everyone else, so you're going to put the ball in his hands as often as possible. The truth is he's going to be a combo guard. He may want to be a point guard. I don't know what that means anymore. Keontae George rarely had the ball in college, but has the ball a ton in the NBA. That's going to be the same thing that I think happens with Darryn Peterson. He didn't always have the ball. He's going to have it more in the NBA. But if he shares the backcourt with Keontae George, I think they're just fine.
Yeah, what is a point guard? I think that's an interesting thing. All I care about, because I think offensively he's probably going to be pretty good. Does he guard? I think that's going to be an important thing. I don't know. He might bully out Keontae a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that's the direction it goes, or make Keontae a little bit more expendable. Why are they floating that out into the atmosphere, I wonder?
Well, do you wonder if that's aimed at Atlanta? Or, excuse me, not Atlanta. Washington because of Trae Young.
He doesn't want to go play with Trae Young.
I don't want to play with Trae. I want the ball in my hands, so don't put me in Washington.
AJ Dybantsa should do the same thing.
Yeah, nobody wants to play with Trae.
I, too, am a point guard.
Yes. Well, hey, AJ does love to dribble.
Yes, he does.
So he could probably sell it.
Yeah. AJ's a big dribbler, no question about it. So, no, I think it's interesting. I do think that's...
No, that's where exactly where you went. That's where my mind went. Like, why would he be floating that out there? Who cares what position you are? Your position, whatever the team and the coach says you are. So,
yeah.
Why are you floating that out there into the universe? What's the point?
And look,
that makes a lot of sense.
Conceivably,
he does not want to play with Trae Young.
All four teams already in the top of the draft have point guards. I mean, if you want to say it's number one, it's Trae Young. If it's two, it's the Jazz, and they have Keontae George. If it's three, it's Memphis, and they have to move off of Ja Morant. Maybe they will, and maybe that's what he would be angling for. I kind of don't think that's the case. And if it was four, it's Josh Giddey. Like, they have a point guard in Chicago. So,
well, if I'm Peterson, I'm looking at, out of all those, who can I beat out? And it's Keontae George.
Yeah, probably Keontae. And you know what? I've talked to a lot of people about Keontae. The Jazz clearly like the idea of putting the ball in his hands. It's not like you entirely lose Keontae's value if he's off the ball. Simply put.
Yeah. I think he needs to fit into the Jazz system. And Keontae did a good job. But last, who did we play? We were talking, the guest on with DJ and PK, who's talking, Geltzeiler, who's talking about whether or not what we saw from last year from Keontae was fake or not. There's some fake to it.
Maybe.
No, I mean, he had the ball the whole game for a bad team. He put up good numbers for a bad team. I mean, it's what we barbecued Bradley Beal about for years.
Sure.
No offense to Keontae.
Yeah.
But there was some fake to it. It was not necessarily real.
I would disagree with that verbiage because I'm just not sure.
He's not going to have the ball nearly as much next year. Not with that team. Not even close.
Yes, his usage will be down.
His numbers are going to go down, and we're going to find out a little bit more what's real. Because lots of players can put up fake numbers on a bad team, and there was something to that. Now, he did show enough that the Jazz went from, we might be off Keontae, to this guy could be a part of the future.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like he made a deep playoff run as the leader of a team, not even close.
Correct.
Now, he hasn't put enough cash in the bank to not get beat out by the number 2 pick, I'll tell you that.
No, absolutely not.
So if the Jazz are even talking about Keontae and Peterson sharing the floor as a consideration whether to take him, I would be shocked.
I'm with you. But I feel the same way about Boozer or Caleb Wilson or A.J. Dybantsa. It's like, yeah, guys, A.J.'s a 3. Well, the Jazz are going to play Lowry Markin at the 3 next year. Well, if AJ's better, you move off of Lowry. In the same way, yeah. If Darryn Peterson's a point guard, Darryn Peterson's a point guard, fine. Move him to point guard and move Keontae out if he's not good enough, or move Keontae to the 2. Or if you take Boozer and Boozer's a better 4 than Jaren Jackson Jr., buy Jaren. you have a different reality now. It's just not the fit conversation that I think a lot of people want to have. I get why it's convenient and I get why it's easy, but like that's not what the draft is. That's not what this draft specifically is.
I remember when Dennis Lindsay drafted Dante Exum because he thought Dante was good. Mm-hmm. And everybody was like, hey, how's he going to play alongside Trey Burke? And Dennis was like, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, right. Trey Burke doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We took this best player, and we're going to put him on the roster, and we're going to be psyched about it.
Correct.
And then it didn't work out, but, I mean, I remember that. I remember Dennis down at the old practice facility and coming out and talking about it, and he's like, I'm not going to let that determine what we're going to do. They're going to make it work together.
But, yes, that conversation will not change anything the Jazz do at 1, or at 2, I should say.
No. All right, what's next?
Number 2, sticking with the combine, AJ Dybantsa jumping out of the gym, 42-inch vert, led all players.
He's got the top vert at the draft. That's not terribly surprising. That is what BYU listed it at before the season started, but they would not be the first team to lie about the athletic numbers of their players. But AJ backed it up. 33.5-inch no-step vert, which is good. Max vert of 42 inches with his near 6'9" measurement last year, or I should say yesterday. Really, just he's the top athlete in the draft, in addition to being, the top scorer. It's really a impressive combination.
Well, and has a bunch of skill.
Yeah.
He should be in consideration to go number 1. Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't think any other player has had like a crazy combine. There are guys like Kingston Flemings who might jump up to 5 now, who's in that conversation of guards who had a very good combine and shot well and is super athletic, but he measured out as being pretty shorter than people thought. AJ isn't worried about that at all. Nothing he's done to disqualify him. He's had a better combine than Darryn Peterson. He's had a better combine than Cam Boozer. So if he was 1 going into the draft, or at least kind of the presumptive number 1 going into the combine, and then he has a great combine, it's only good for AJ.
And remember, the only thing that matters at the combine are the medicals and the interview. So good times.
Yeah.
The 3-cone run or whatever it is,
Correct.
Might as well stop.
Guys shooting in an empty gym doesn't matter.
There's not one GM who looked at that number from AJ Dybantsa and goes, "Oh, I didn't know he could jump."
Didn't know he could jump.
Had no idea.
Yeah. It backs up what you think.
Yeah. Well, it just doesn't matter as much. I mean, I think the combine gets attention on the numbers because the NFL gets so much attention and they call it the same thing. But the use of it really isn't that big a deal, let alone personal workouts and all these things that matter so much more. But you do get all of their medicals and you do get to sit down with them.
Yes.
And those are the 2 things that matter the most. I mean, I feel bad for Darryn Peterson. He's going to sit down with, 4, 5, 6 teams, however many his agent and he decide. And he's going to have to talk about sandbagging games in every single one.
Yeah, it's going to be his big question. Throughout the combine, after he gets drafted, that's going to be the top question. How's the cramps?
Why are you sandbagging games, dude?
Yeah,
What's
you not
going
care?
on?
Yeah, you're not playing hard? Do you not want to play?
Because the heart is the not measurable. And like we talked about yesterday, if you draft a great player with no heart,
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, Derek Coleman. Super talent. Didn't like basketball. Okay. Well, I don't know what to tell you.
I don't think Dwight Howard had a lot of heart.
Yeah, may not have.
And it doesn't mean that the player's going to be a failure, but it does mean that they're not going to reach their potential.
Yeah, for sure. And, Darryn Peterson does say all the right things. He says, I'm an assassin. I'm a silent killer. I do all this stuff. Well, show it. Silent assassin doesn't mean anything if you're just silent everywhere. So those are some of the big questions.
What's next?
Number 3, Spurs, T-Wolves, Game 5 tonight.
We're going to skip over last night's games?
I don't know. We can talk about it later. That's what I put in there, bro.
Lakers swept.
Okay. Yeah, T-Wolves Spurs tied up at 2. I can't believe Wemby's going to play. I hope somebody from the T-Wolves elbows him into tomorrow.
Well, the rule obviously is going to be for the Spurs, for the Timberwolves, try and frustrate him. He can be frustrated. Now he's got to be very careful. He's going to be under the microscope, and he's probably going to try to adjust. So he's got to find a balance of the right aggression without going over the line, and he went over the line last time. So that should be the key if you're the Timberwolves. Come out, push him around. Try and get him to commit another foul. He's not going to get ejected again, I don't think, but clearly he does not like what's happening. So keep going at him, because you can take him out of a game.
I hope that the gloves don't come off and it doesn't turn into somebody going and trying to injure somebody else as much as I'm joking about it, because that's a realistic thing. Like, it really could happen, and you never want to see anybody get hurt. But I think the T-Wolves have a chance to steal one. They've already proven that they can overcome the insurmountable home court advantage in the playoffs and win in San Antonio, as long as Anthony Edwards is right and they figure out a good way to either get into Wemby's head or slow him down like they did in Game 1, throw different looks at him. I mean, I think Finch is a good coach.
He's a very good coach, and Jaden McDaniels, come swing down on Wemby's arms. You're not trying to injure him, but you are trying to anger him. I've got no problem with that at all. You should do that every game. You're trying to win a championship right now, and you're pretty close. So, you've got to get through this series. And if the best way you can get off of a series is throwing another guy mentally out of the game, please do. That should be what the entire game plan is, because you're not going to beat Wemby physically. He's 7'5" and does everything on the court very well. So, you've got to anger him. You've got to challenge him. And then personally, as a fan of basketball, I like seeing the adversity, and I would love to see Minnesota win tonight and put Wemby with his back to the wall for the final 2 games, having to win in Minnesota and then back at home in a Game 7 to advance to the conference finals. I think it's a great storyline.
All right, stay tuned. We'll have more coming up next. It's Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ready or not, summer is coming, and Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance is on now. Right now through May 25th, get up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair. Plus, score amazing doorbuster deals all sale long and surprise flash deals on Memorial Day. We're talking thousands of products at every style and budget. Now is the time to save big on must-haves for your patio, backyard, and beyond. These savings won't last, so don't wait. Shop Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance now through May 25th.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
The PGA Championship update is presented by Copper Rock, where the pros play, on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. It is PGA Championship week. And our next guest is brought to you by Mountain America Credit Union, Mountain Land Supply, Black Desert Resort, and Hoops Vision. He is and You Went to Golf. He is the co-host of Real Golf Radio every single Saturday morning right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. He's our buddy Bob Casper. What's going on, Bob?
Hey, Bob.
Hey guys, how you doing? I liked how you kind of slipped in Real Golf Radio.
Well, I was told that's how it was pronounced. Yeah, it was years ago. Years ago. I was told that's how you're supposed to say it, Bob.
Oh, okay.
Not to tell you the name of your own show. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, is Rory the headliner from here on out until somebody proves they can beat him?
Well, as far as majors are concerned, he came off the Masters winning the last one, but he's got something that's going on that we just found out a little while ago. He's got a blister under one of his toenails on his right foot, and in fact, this morning, he took that toenail off to get to that blister, and he's having a hard time with his shoe and that kind of thing. It was only able to play 4 holes in the practice round today. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure all will be fine, and he'll get it padded correctly, and it will all be good. But, it's something lingering in the back of your mind. But Rory is definitely, this golf course sets up for him.
I think everybody just got the chills when you talked about ripping off that toenail. That's rough. All right, tell us about this golf course, Bob. How does it play? And how do you pronounce it? Aeronomic. All right, and it's in Pennsylvania, close to Philly. Tell us about this course.
Yes. So the golf course is a club that's been around since the late 1800s, like 1896, something like that. It just went through a revision with Gil Hance not long ago, and it's a beautiful golf course. It's going to play about 70. Let me look at the sheet here real quick. 7,400 yards, and but it's a par 70, which means there's only 2 par 5s on the golf course. It is a golf course that has 180 bunkers on it, and a lot of them are in the driving area, so players have the option to decide whether they're going to hit a shorter club off the tee to evade those, or whether they're just going to do what Rory says, just launch it on every driving hole and hit it over the bunkers. And but it's primarily a second shot golf course, and the greens are the defense of the golf course. They're big, they have a lot of undulation in them, and there's a lot of places for the PGA of America to stick those flags to kind of hide them away from.
We lost Bob. We'll find Bob. This isn't an old course, Ben. It's only ever hosted one other major in 1962, the PGA Championship. Your winner, Gary Player.
Okay.
Only 2 under though.
Tough course.
Well, only 2 par 5s. That's interesting. A par 70.
Yeah, should be some decent scores. You think? Well, the 5s, I guess, is where you want to score.
Yeah,
so,
that's where players make their birdies.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, maybe it'll be a tough. Maybe it'll be a tough course. You like the PGA Championship historically?
It's all right. Yeah, it's fine. I don't dislike it like the Masters or the U.S. Open. Bob, you were telling us about the course.
Yeah, it's just going to be a long golf course. Second shot primarily, as far as the golf course is concerned, is where guys are going to be able to take advantage of it a little bit. But the greens are huge. They're big, and they have a lot of slope, a lot of undulation in them, and the PGA of America can hide those flags a little bit, and you don't want to short side yourself or get yourself on the high side of the hole.
Do we have any sense of what the weather is looking like this weekend?
Well, they're supposed to have about a 45% chance of rain tomorrow or some type of moisture, about an 80% chance on Thursday, and then the rest of the week is supposed to be in the 70s and 80s. So they want the golf course to play fast. They want it to play firm. And with that little bit of moisture, it's going to soften it up for a couple of days, but the weekend is really going to make the golf course play tough.
Any pairings you've got your eye on? I mean, Scheffler, Fitzpatrick, and Rose looks pretty good.
That's a great pairing, especially since Matthew Fitzpatrick. All 3 of those guys have won. Scotty and Rose, and then Matthew Fitzpatrick won with his brother, and then 2 other events. So that's a great pairing and a really good one to watch. You know, any of the pairings that have the marquee players in them, Rory, Cameron Young is another great pairing. He's won a couple of times this year. And so those are the ones that you want to watch, because I think Rory, Cameron Young, and Scotty and Matthew Fitzpatrick are the cream of the crop this week.
Now give me Gary Woodland, Bob. He and Jason
Now
Day.
that's another great story, because he won earlier this year as well.
See? Well, hey, listen, Bob, it should be very exciting. We're going to be catching up with you and Brian throughout the week. We love your coverage of the majors. We love your show every week, but particularly these weeks. So keep up the good work. Thank you very much, and we appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
There you go. That's Bob Casper. He and Brian Taylor host Real Golf Radio every Saturday morning. You got any golfer you like these days, Ben?
I don't mind Rory. I like him when he has all 10 toenails. But
not picking per se, but you're rooting for, like everybody picks their NASCAR driver. Do you have somebody you like?
Lazily, Tony.
He's not playing.
He's not playing here. He's playing the Masters. So, no, he's kind of my draw. And I will tell you, admittedly, as a casual when it comes to golf, I liked when Tiger was playing. Tiger stopped playing. My interest waned. I got into Rory a little bit. I kind of root for Rory. Thought it was cool. He won the Masters. I'll be watching him a little bit this weekend. Tony's the guy. I don't know if I'm rooting for him, but would love to see him break through in one of the majors, and now he's not even qualifying. So.
I don't know why Scheffler kind of bugs me, but he does. I kind of like this Cameron Young. You heard Bob talking about him. He's really storming onto the scene. I don't know if you. I take it you haven't watched the full swing on. It's entertaining. And you can either like or not like players based on that show, but like Matt Fitzpatrick comes off really good on it.
This is the most Jake take I have, which is I dislike more golfers than I like.
Oh, good. All right.
Yeah,
Give us an example.
I root against Bryson DeChambeau.
No, yeah, I'll root against that guy.
Oh, man, who's the guy a few years ago? He actually just was hanging out at the Jazz practice facility earlier this year. Bubba Watson.
Oh, did you yell at him?
It's like, no, I didn't see him. But those are guys I generally am not rooting for.
Would you have yelled at him?
I don't think so.
You suck, Bubba!
Bubba! Water! No.
All right. I just figuring it out. You would like the full swing, even if you're not dialed in golfer.
Yeah, for sure.
It's actually pretty good. And they had a behind the scenes of all the. I haven't watched the most recent season, but all the live drama and stuff. That was pretty compelling because they had behind the scenes look of all of that stuff. So shout out to Bob. Thanks to him for jumping on. Again, he and Brian will be on all the shows all week long as part of our PGA Championship coverage. And speaking of that, let's give away a golfer. Caller number 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. We're going to assign you a golfer in the PGA Championship this week. We'll assign one of the top 25, and then one listener will get the rest of the field. The winner will receive a Copper Rock logo golf bag plus a $100 gas gift card. It's brought to you by Copper Rock, where the pros play. 801-575-ZONE. Man, I can't believe they sent Seth Greenberg out to the combine. Now he's got to be on the TV. Can we change it just so I don't have to look at Seth Greenberg?
You really hate him.
He's the worst.
He really bothers
Not
you.
only was he a terrible coach who passed on Steph Curry, but he's a terrible analyst. And if he actually was a good coach, wouldn't someone else have hired him?
Sure.
At some point?
Yeah.
You know how I know Dick Vitale sucked at coaching? Because nobody would hire him.
Yeah.
So did Lee Corso. Hey, now, great broadcaster.
Sure. Yeah.
Lee way better than Dick Vitale. But ask me how I know they sucked at coaching. Because they broadcasted for 40 years or 50 years or
Never
whatever.
Never got their foot back in the door.
Never got another job.
Bad sign.
Like even John Gruden got another gig.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I mean, Michael Malone was a broadcaster for a year. Yeah, a lot of guys are only dabbling in it.
Like Bill Cowher legit retired, right?
Uh-huh.
Lee Corso had like 5 bad years in Indiana and then went on TV. All right. Stay tuned. We'll have more Jake and Ben coming up next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.